With U.S. Israel defense ties about to change shape, has Iran finally found the opening it wanted to hit Israel harder while Washington is distracted by money talks? As budgets tighten and aid timelines are drawn, is this the moment Israel's security establishment has long feared, when American support starts to look less automatic? The U.S. Israel military aid model is now facing its biggest break since the 2016 deal, forcing both sides to rethink what the next decade of support really looks like. And as the Iran crisis grinds on, is Benjamin Netanyahu quietly preparing to move beyond Trump's old aid formula, shifting from free money to a different kind of partnership? Amid high-stakes tensions with Iran, U.S. Israel defense ties are heading for a shakeup as both countries prepare for talks that could phase out traditional aid. Israel and the U.S. are set to launch formal negotiations next month on a fresh defense assistance deal that will kick in once the current pact expires. This new framework is meant to replace the existing Memorandum of Understanding, which runs until the end of 2028 and locks in today's funding levels. On the Israeli side, the team will reportedly be led by Defense Ministry Director General Amir Baram, joined by Envoy Michael Leiter as a key civilian negotiator. The U.S. delegation is expected to be headed by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, with senior advisor Michael Needham helping shape the America First contours of the deal. Together, they'll design an assistance model covering the decade from 2029 through 2038, setting the rules for how much cash and cooperation Israel can count on. The current 10-year framework, signed in 2016, grants Israel $38 billion in total aid, of which $33 billion is for weapons procurement grants and $5 billion for missile defense programs. Right now, that translates into roughly $3.3 billion a year to buy major U.S. weapons, plus about $500 million annually earmarked for joint air and missile defenses. The new framework is being built as a bridge toward ending direct American cash aid by 2038, rather than locking in another permanent cycle of grants. Under the emerging model, U.S. money for Israeli procurement would shrink step by step each year, instead of suddenly falling off a cliff at the end of the pact. At the same time, both sides expect to deepen joint development of cutting-edge weapons, trying to preserve Israel's qualitative edge even as pure cash transfers decline. Planned cooperation is likely to focus on high-energy laser systems, next-generation air defense interceptors, and other technologies that could change the game against drones and missiles. But Israeli officials warn that no one can accurately predict what the battlefield will demand in a dozen years, especially with Iran, Hezbollah, and Gaza all still volatile. Today, American military aid equals roughly 0.5% of Israel's GDP and around 15% of its overall defense budget, still a major pillar, but not the whole structure. For decades, that stream of money has symbolized Washington's commitment to Israel's qualitative military advantage, especially against larger regional foes. U.S. defense firms have also profited heavily, since most of the funds have to be spent on American manufacturers, feeding orders straight into their production lines. However, the Russia-Ukraine war has flooded U.S. arms plants with European orders, making them far less reliant on Israeli demand to keep assembly lines running. At the same time, bipartisan enthusiasm for big aid packages to Israel has visibly eroded in Washington, with more lawmakers questioning the blank check approach. Progressive Democrats have attacked Israel's conduct in Gaza, citing humanitarian and legal concerns and demanding conditions on future U.S. military support. Some Republicans now argue that unwavering support for Israel clashes with Trump's America First message, especially as domestic priorities and other wars compete for funds. In Tel Aviv, there is growing anxiety that Trump may be the last truly staunch pro-Israel president for a while, making this aid round feel like a closing window of opportunity. Israeli defense sources think the core talks could last about 4 months, if new security crises with Iran or Hezbollah don't derail the schedule yet again. One key goal is to make U.S. financial aid hit zero by 2038 in a controlled way, avoiding a sudden rupture that might shock markets or embolden Israel's enemies. By 2028, Israel is expected to exceed its agreed U.S. procurement levels by billions of dollars, meaning it will owe either budget cuts or clever refinancing in the next deal. Those extra purchases will need to be either folded into the new framework's repayment schedule or fully absorbed by Israel's own defense budget going forward. Officials insist Israel can still maintain its force buildup, but only if it accepts a significantly higher defense budget over the coming decade. The defense budget has already jumped to about 144 billion shekels, and internal projections suggest it may climb to roughly 177 billion shekels in the next few years. Any future clash with Iran, Hezbollah, or a renewed war in Gaza could push those demands even higher, forcing Israel to choose between guns and other spending. Israel's defense ministry has already branded the coming years an intensive decade, signaling a massive rearmament drive to cope with multiple fronts at once. Planned purchases include new fighter jets, aerial refuelers, attack helicopters, naval ships, surveillance satellites, and layers of fresh missile interceptors. In response to the changing U.S. aid model, Israel plans to add roughly 35 billion shekels a year to its defense spending to plug the gap left by shrinking American cash. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's long-term plan envisions about 350 billion extra shekels over 10 years, essentially self-funding what U.S. grants once covered. Yet analysts quoted in Israeli media doubt that even this massive sum will fully cover Israel's expanding security requirements, especially if Iran sees an opening to strike harder.
$25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that look, you will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest news makers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the U.S. will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry guards.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Deep dive into burning issues.
It's often said DRC could be the richest country in the whole world. It's because of what sits underneath.
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HD videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.
$25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that look, you will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest news makers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the U.S. will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry guards.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Deep dive into burning issues.
It's often said DRC could be the richest country in the whole world. It's because of what sits underneath.
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HD videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.